Hannah, lovely to chat again. We've chatted before, and I'm really excited to hear your feedback. But before we do that, just tell us what your specific question was, so we can orientate the listeners and the viewers.
Sure. So I have 3 kids, and my youngest is 8, and she's a very high energy, really big feeler, and she's very empathic. And I love all of these things about her, but honestly, it can be really exhausting sometimes helping her manage her emotions and just kind of helping her piece them apart so they don't control her. And it really leaves me quite drained. But one thing we really noticed for her, apart from just her emotional health, is the way it's affecting her physically. So she struggles with migraines, and she probably gets them about twice a month. And we've had her tested for food allergies, chemical sensitivities, and nothing has shown up. And so just as I'm someone who's been through brain rewiring, and so I know that effect our emotions can have on our physical health. And so I'm like, oh, I wonder if her high level of feeling is actually affecting her through migraines because has had a tough day at school, or if her and her siblings have had a high emotional day, or if she just had a great day, but her feeling level is like 10 out of 10, she will get a migraine shortly afterwards. And so I guess my question is kind of two-part. Like, how do I help her manage her emotions better so they don't spiral into migraines? But also, like, how do I help myself so I'm not so burned out all the time, helping her deal with her emotions?
Fantastically laid out. I love how you broke that down. And what's very insightful, Hannah, is I'm very pleased that you said, how can I help myself so that because you're so burnt out, and that's not selfish. We have this thing as parents that we've got to completely sacrifice everything about who we are as a human because we've now got children. And that's so wrong, because your empathy and ability to process and ability to deal with being a mother is going to get worse if you don't work on yourself first. So thank you for asking that and having that insight to the fact that we have to work on ourselves first. Your burnout will just be picked up by her. Your anxiety about her will be picked up by her. They read our body signals better than what we do. So that 50% of communication is nonverbal, and kids are better at reading nonverbal communication than adults. So, which is super interesting. So therefore, the research will the way the research describes it is that the anxiety or stress or overwhelm or burnout of how we are feeling, the child feels it as well, kind of determines their level. So this is why the oxygen mask principle needs to apply. So that's really good. So working on your side, what I really recommend is that you get into the Neurocycle app, and because the audio guides you through the 63 days. And to this, I really think you're going to need a full 63 days of working through the 5 steps of the app. And your thought that you'll work on for the 63 days will be giving yourself permission to feel the overwhelm, to feel the burnout, and to describe all those, work through all the different signals. So, starting with, like, on day 1, step 1, do your brain preparation, whatever you want to do for the brain preparation. I give you lots of examples in the app and in the book as well. But then you're going to go through your signals, gather awareness of how you're feeling. What does overwhelm look like for you in your life? Frustration, irritation, what does it look like in your behaviors? Snappiness, getting frustrated, the frustration coming out in maybe being a bit short-tempered, or, saying things that you don't want to say, whatever. No guilt, no condemnation, just get this out. And then you're going to work through as well how that feels in your body and how that's influencing your perspective. And, start with, like, where you're at sort of generally the first day. And then as you progress through, you'll see it'll become more specific, and it'll become more focused on the moment, and then you'll see things shifting and changing. So then it's really important that when you go to the next step of the reflecting, that you're looking, which is the why, and how is this showing up in my life? So what are the statements that you are saying? Whereas the first step is just kind of gathering a broad one sentence of each thing. Going into the reflect is, how is this showing up in my relationship with myself, my self-talk, with my husband, with my children, with her specifically, with my other children, with my friends, work. It's all those kinds of factors. So then you can track down to, you write all of that down, which just starts helping you to understand, how you were processing things, and that takes you down to the source and the root. And the source and the root, broadly, is the fact that you're really concerned about your daughter's reaction to this being so sensitive, and how it's affecting her, how she feels, and her the migraines and migraines. Sorry, South African version migraines and all that kind of stuff. It's that, but what is the detail? Maybe the source is, I'm not sleeping enough, I'm sacrificing too much sleep, this, I'm that. Find the source of, because the big thing is overwhelm and burnout, but what is the actual detail of the roots? So when you work on that, you can spend around, I'd recommend about 15 minutes a day. You can even spend less, but that's literally 3 minutes per each step. And, be very focused and strict on 3 minutes per each step. And around about day 21, you're going to be, you're going to start really coming to grips with this issue. But before that as well, you're going to have major breakthroughs on each day, but push through. By day 21, you'll have a plan in place. You'll have that new way you're going to function, and then you've got to practice that. And then it's just 5 minutes a day. It's almost like a little booster as you're getting ready in the morning. Get yourself ready for the day. And not only will this help, it's Hannah. Your name's Hannah. Sorry, your youngest, your 8-year-old. You don't have to tell me her name. Sorry.
Okay.
You don't
Nora.
have to say Nora. Okay. Not only do you have to help, will you help her, but you've helped yourself, you'll help her, you'll help your other kid, you'll help your husband. It'll become a family collaborative effort. Okay, so that's the first thing. So it's to choose the next 9 weeks to work on that. And that's your time for yourself. And you can build all of your things in there, your prayer time, meditation time, everything around this structure. Then you are activating your resilience, building your wisdom. Then let's talk now about Nora. Totally correct that when we have an experience and when we have a combination of stuff, there is who she is, and that's growing. Then there's the nurturing. So there's nature, there's nurture, and then there's the I factor. And the I factor is the third element, and that's her unique personality. So there's her basic wiring, is how you bring in her up and all the things she's exposed to, but then there's also her unique personality, her I factor. And this is the part we want to really develop and grow and empower her to be resilient, because her nurture's on her side. Nature is on her side. Nurture isn't always on her side. Not everyone has a great upbringing and whatever, but there's still things in her nurturing which you can't control. And so it could be kids at school. It could be something the teacher said. I mean, I've had a patient once who one person said one thing and it threw that child off at 4 years of age, and it threw that child off literally for the rest of their life. The family had an issue with the child until they could get down to that core. And it took a lot of work to find, oh gosh, that one statement. And I'm not saying one statement necessarily will throw your child off, but it was so impactful because of the context that one statement was the trigger, that was the source that we had to get to. So we can't control those things. We can't control everything, and it's really bad to try and control everything anyway, because that's the whole helicopter parenting thing, which does not help a child build resilience. So what we want to do is build the I factor. And the I factor is allowing her to experience these emotions. So it's giving her the permission to, so instead of saying, and I know it's hard, and you may or may not have done this, but instead of saying, oh gosh, you're being so oversensitive, you don't have to be so sensitive. All good intentions, or wording along that line, which was all good intentions. When we say that, however, we send the message that I'm bad, just because of how kids function and their age and all that kind of thing. And I know you're not sending that message, but that's kind of how the child will perceive it. So what we want to do is understand that whatever is happening in her life, at school, with friends, with her siblings, in her nurturing, the things that she doesn't really have the words to be able to maybe express fully, even fully process, is a bundle of energy that's coming into her brain and building into these tree-like structures that are physical, real protein structures, and they hold the little energy inside the protein. So you imagine trees, and every branch is filled with vibrations of energy, just to give you an analogy. When the I factor of a person is one leaning towards being a highly sensitive person, which is not a bad thing because it can be channeled into such beautiful ways. But if you don't know how to channel that energy, you can be triggered and thrown off. So it becomes extremely important for for Nora to be able to process what this intensity that she feels means, and that it's not bad, but if she doesn't know what to do, it's going to come out in a negative way, or it's going to store. Now, because it's real physical protein tree-like structures, the brain's immune response will pick up on this kind of imbalanced chaos that's like a big tsunami inside these little protein structures, as opposed to a nice calm wave. And there's different levels of, the wave you want the wave to sort of be like this, but the waves of energy may be like this or something, and she doesn't know what to do with that. So that creates a disturbance in the brain, which then creates a response in the immune system, which then affects everything, the whole hypothalamic, pituitary, endocrine, everything. And that combination will manifest in vulnerability to some kind of physical thing. So because it's creating chronic toxic stress. So yes, pretty much like a strong likelihood that those migraines are coming from the source. That could be the way she's manifesting this. So you're totally correct there. There's a whole psychoneurobiological link there. So what we want to do is to take that energy that's it's exploding in her head as these, because basically a migraine is like the blood vessels constrict, so the blood is not flowing like it should. So it's actually it either constricts or it gets they expand. So then you get this whooshing of blood through the brain, which is a response, and that can, that's a very simple explanation, and there's different explanations for it, but just to give you some sort of idea. So it's very real, the link, because our mind is using our brain. So her mind is experiencing life, and her mind is putting it through her unique style of thinking, feeling, choosing, which is her mind and her unique brain that's attuned to her mind and her body, and it's manifesting in this way. So what we have to help her do is take that energy and redirect it and use it in the correct way. So the way to do that is to change the energy level in the brain, to change the way the chemicals are flowing, all that stuff. And the way we do that is by taking her through a neurocycle. The 38 years of research I've done on this show that this is how we can bring order out of chaos and get some kind of dissemination of that energy in the right direction. And that begins with taking her into some kind of calming down, so some sort of brain preparation, which could be breathing or something like that. I give lots of examples. The 3-7 breathing is just like a foolproof, one of my favorite things. Breathe in for 3, out for 7, really calms down. 10-second pause is what it's called. And then you go into let's gather awareness. Now, key with her, she's 8 years old, is you want to make this super simple. You want to definitely make it like one sentence per each of the signals. So so right now, see how you're feeling. I acknowledge you're in the safe space. Create a safe space in your house. I give lots of these examples, by the way, in the book, my new book that's coming out on the 8th of August, How to Help Your Child Clean Up Their Mental Mess. I know that you're familiar with this book over here, and this is very similar to the app. So this is now the children's version. And in the meantime, you can start applying this. In the Neurocycle app, as I said, it guides you through, and you'll be putting a parent add-on, which will also be, and hopefully by August, September as well. But in the meantime, one of the key things that you can do with the Gather Awareness is to start applying, getting her to say one sentence per each element. Okay, so that's a summary. Now, I know that we've discussed briefly what I've said now in like 10 minutes. We've discussed this sort of a broad version of this before, and I know you try to apply this. So can you give me some feedback and the feedback to the listeners and viewers about how this is working in your life, and is it working, and what's not working, and what questions do you have in addition to what you asked initially?
Sure. So the first time we talked, my kids were still in school, and they came home from school that day, and Nora had a really bad headache, and she had a really rough day with some of her classmates and was very high emotion. And I was like, okay, I talked to this brain doctor today, and she was talking about how we have trees in our brain, because she's very creative. She's a very imaginative thinker. And I was like, let's help your trees be healthy. And she's like, okay, I can do this. And so it's like, one thing we're gonna do is mommy's gonna breathe in and out with you. And I want you to do haven touching, which is you just gently touch your arms like this. And so she kind of was breathing with me and then kind of not. And I was like, okay, well, let's try another technique. And so I had her count backwards from 30 while touching her arms. And it was like I had a different kid. And I was different because I was doing it with her.
The psychoneurobiology calmed down. Fantastic. I love that.
And so then I had a calmer version of her. And I was like, okay, can you tell me in one sentence how you feel right now? And to watch her be able to pause and give me one sentence, she's like, well, I just feel like I had a bad day and I don't like that. And I was like, okay, I don't like it when I have bad days either. That's really tough. And then from there, it was just, we were able to more organized, piecemeal the day and what actually made her upset. And it ended up being an interaction with somebody, and like, yep, that would be really hard. And just reminding her, like, you can only control your trees. You can't control other people's trees in their minds. And so you just have to do what you need to do to stay calm. And she's like, okay. And, and it was just like really amazing to watch her just through a breathing exercise and touching her arms and then counting backwards. That took less than a minute. And for her to be from this huge, chaotic, all the emotions everywhere, to streamline into one sentence, I was like, this is fascinating, because she's so creative and she's often like everywhere at one time. So to be able to be in one place,
everywhere all the time, all at once, or whatever that movie is called.
I don't even know, but yeah, it was very amazing. And then Another time she was upset, and I was like, well, why don't you try to organize your feelings on paper? Like, let's just see how this technique goes. And all on her own, without any prompting of mine. Well, I did tell her, I was like, why don't you organize it like you do at school when you're writing a story? And she's like, okay. So she puts her main thought in the center, and she just on her own starts making all these spokes off of her main thought. And I was like, this is so insightful. Like, how do you feel? And she goes, well, now I feel like I know what my feelings are saying. And I was like, whoa.
I love that.
So,
I don't know if the listeners
yeah.
caught that. Now I know what my feelings are saying. Beautiful.
Yes.
Look at that
Yeah,
level of
and
insight.
yes. And because she's such a high empath, she's very in tune with her feelings, which can be an incredible strength, but it can also be an incredible weakness of hers because they can really control her and confuse her. But for her to feel like not only does she know what her feelings are saying, but now she has a say in how the storyline goes. It's really fun to watch her feel empowered. So,
oh, that's
yeah.
beautiful. I love that. So just a quick question. I love how you handle the whole situation. Perfect. And that really, it's fantastic. Well done. So when you asked her to give the sentence around her feelings, did you also talk about in her body and the other 4 signals? Because there's the feelings, the behaviors, the body sensations, and the perspective. I know you may not have had those words exactly in your mind, but did you take, because feelings alone, we've got to always associate the feeling with a behavior and a sensation and how are they looking at life?
We've just done the feelings and how it makes her feel physically. And so she's tough. But we did not get to perspective and what's the other?
The behaviors, how it's playing out in her
Behavior,
behaviors.
Perspective and behavior. I got to write that down. I'm taking
I
notes
know.
this time.
That's sweet. No problem. No problem. So this is where in the book I've got the whole like detail, and I've got like little blocks where it tells you this is how there's these like the pictures of the little warning signals, and then there's a table where you can actually guide you through the questions. So you can actually, and the kids love it if you pull. That's why I did. I mean, this is coming from my years of therapy. In the actual book, there's a little.
For this book.
Me too. I love this book, and I've got all the different age stages. Oh, let me find the signals. Where's this thing? And I'm going to hold it up and show you here. Hannah, what you'll find really helpful is in the book, what I've got for you is the table of the 4 warning signals. So there's a whole chapter on it, and these little gray blocks, and those blocks are how you tell your child how to, and it's like wording for the words to explain this concept of we're going to go through these 4. We're going to talk about these 4 signals that are coming out of my tree. And then there's the actual question. So the 4 warning signals, I'll tell you like if they're ages 3 through 5 or 6 through 10, and I give examples, and then I give you actual questions of how you can actually ask it. So the table is there. Now, this is something you can actually have out with the child, and because they love it. Kids, I mean, listen, guys, I've done this in therapy for years. I don't practice anymore, but the kids showed me what they wanted, and we often assume that a child, they don't understand these hard things. They understand the brain quicker than what we even realize. And they apply these principles. Look, you had that example of what Nora said, that insightful thing. Now I know what my feelings are saying. That is utterly brilliant. That just shows her insight. Yeah. So if you hold this out, you can say, okay, let's go through these. Let's actually go through these together. And here's the tree. There's a picture. The first chapter has got all these pictures of the trees. And there's the happy and the sad trees. I don't know if you can see those.
Yeah.
And then that image of Brainy, you'll notice there's a little character called Brainy. Brainy is throughout the book in these different scenarios with trees, with these 4 different scenarios of Brainy with the 4 signals. So you can literally point, okay, let's do the feeling sentence signal. Let's do the behavior sentence signal. Let's do the bodily sensation perspective signal. Bodily sensation signal, and let's do the perspective signal. They're signals because they're telling us to pay attention. That's why they're signals. And they're not problems. They're just signals. They're giving us information. So when we pay attention, then we can find out what they're saying and where they come from, and we can fix that tree. We can't pull the tree out, but that tree, that experience that you had, that tree, the roots aren't very nice. So we want to, heal the roots. We want to put plant food on. All of that kind of wording and imagery is throughout the book. And the 5 little steps of what to do are in the little blocks over here. And these come up all the time, consistently through the book, so they can walk their mental health journey.
Oh, awesome.
There's a whole chapter on social interaction, which is a really good one for this in this scenario because of her being to be able to channel that beautiful sensitivity in the right direction. When you are highly sensitive, social interactions are where it really plays out and really explodes in our life because whatever anyone says to you is going to be filtered through that. So to help her tone down that filter. So I've got a whole chapter on how you can do that. Then we've also created the Brainy character, which is the whole toy. We've got this version. We'll eventually have a whole lot more. And Brainy then is a physical thing. If you like the havening, when you touched, to have a physical contact with a little toy and to hold it, it's a point of contact. Even adults love this little toy, and dogs, they love it. My dogs love this toy. But that's another
I'm
way.
sure mine would too.
Yeah, it's just another point of contact. It becomes your toolkit, and then I've got the coloring book as well. So these are things that are all coming up, and they're on pre-order at the moment. There's a coloring book where you can walk through scenarios with Brainy. There's actually even one with children in the book of different scenarios where there's children in the book that are having, like this one, they are chasing, this is a little, they're doing a little workout there, but there's ones of having nightmares, of having an issue with friends, bullying, and there's a blank page. So the point is that there's tools that you can also use in addition to just the verbalization, and you can also cut out pictures and find other pictures and use other toys. It's that interaction created in one safe space in your house, which will really help her to take this energy and say, oh, it's okay. Here's what I do. This is my 5 steps that I work through. When you said you did the writing step, that's step 3. So when you asked her about the feelings and she said that whole sentence, you kind of dived into the reflect. And and if you analyze what you actually said, you probably did all of those things, but maybe not as obviously. To be able to guide her through, okay, let's start with the 4 sentences. Now let's ask ourselves, how and why is this showing up in my life? So what am I saying? How am I saying it? Am I shouting at my friends? Am I running away? And if she doesn't want to say it, okay, what is Brainy doing? That kind of thing. The younger children prefer the enactment, but I have found sometimes an 8 and a 9-year-old, especially if it's a very traumatic experience, they love to be able to distance themselves and make it their toy or something like that, a series of toys. But that sequential going through that, and then the reflect, and then the writing it down, it's so helpful. And then you say, okay, well, this is what my feelings are saying. This is what, and it's showing up like this in my body. And now what can we do about this? And that's where you collaboratively, you don't give the solutions. You may have to give one, but it's a collaborative facilitative process working through, and that's your recheck step 4. And then the action is, okay, let's practice. Let's choose one of these things that you can do tomorrow at school, or this afternoon we can practice while we're with your siblings, or if it comes up this afternoon, what is your thing and that could be a little statement, action, visualization, little prayer, whatever it may be, something that's solid. Sometimes it's just grab hold of Brainy and that reminds them, it's okay. I'm working through this. It's not bad. I'm not bad. That sometimes they just need that sort of reminder.
Yeah.
So does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yeah. It's just been amazing to apply, even like you were saying, these concepts, and maybe not even in the specific order or using the specific phrasing, but just kind of having a general idea of the whole concept and watching how it's really transformed her ability to process and release. So I'm really excited to go through it in a more organized fashion with her and just step by step teach her brain, it's okay to have feelings, but let's process them step by step in a way that's going to be helpful.
Yeah, that's big. That's big. That because your mind drives your brain. So this step by step, because people hear what I'm saying, they say, no, feelings, and I can do that. But it's that if you just talk about feelings, you take the plane's going to take off and your kid will crash, because if you don't fly the plane, it's going to crash. You have to fly the plane. So think of it as preparing the engineer, getting everything ready, speaking to the pilots. Then the plane taking off is the gather awareness. Then the flying of the plane is the reflect and the write and the recheck. And then the landing of the plane is the active reach. And, if you take it through that sequence, that's the key to change, to rewire the brain so that they are feeling empowered. And they don't rely on you to fix it. They're getting empowerment to rely on themselves to fix it, which is so key.
Yes, that would be a great next step for her, is to be able to do it herself instead of needing, and I don't mind teaching and helping, but obviously we want our children to be healthy and independent. And so for her to get to that spot will be really exciting.
Absolutely. So it's you co-regulating and then they self-regulate. So the co-regulation is, and then you're demonstrating that self-regulation by you going through, and you can explain to her, it's really important to talk through and say, when you get upset and you get a headache and you're sad, it also makes me sad because I want to help you and I don't want to get frustrated with you and irritated. So I did this neurocycle. I did this. And you can tell her a brief summary. So she can see, oh, mommy also, mommy's also frustrated, and that's okay. And mommy can also be messy, and but she solved it. She managed that. She went through those processes, 5 steps. So eventually you get to the point where we'd have kids saying, you'd be driving in the car and the kids start having a fight. So, okay, guys, let's neurocycle. In your corner, face forward, let's breathe together, let's neurocycle, let's take our space, do it in your head, whatever. So you can then apply it when you've practiced those steps and you've ingrained that as a process that in your area of your house that is the neurocycle corner, or whatever you want to call it, then when you need it on tap, on hand, quickly to use it under 10 seconds or something, they have a system, they have a way of calming them down. The brain preparation techniques, maybe they're fighting in the car and you're driving on holiday. The first thing you need to do is decompress. Okay, let's do that Dr. Leaf breathing thing. You can also, by using, as you said, the brain lady or brain doctor or whatever, it takes it away from them. Why are you making me do this? You're actually giving them, hey, that person who says this is how you're going to help, kind of creates a little bit of a buffer zone for you to help guide the child.
I like that.
You have any more questions around this?
I don't think so right now. I'm really excited. I took notes this time.
Fantastic. Well, you've got a lot to start with. Last time we had quite a big discussion around lots of different ideas, but this is a great start that you've made. Now go back in and do it very specifically. And then we'll see you when the book comes out. By the way, for everyone, the book's on pre-order at the moment. The link will be in the show notes. There's great pre-order bonuses that you get a big discount off the Brainy and the coloring book. And there's a webinar and there's a whole bunch of pre-order bonuses to try and help you get into this whole process. I mean, just think of it, Hannah, if we can get our kids to help manage their mental health, we are addressing the mental health crisis, because our current crisis is very much based on the fact that for the last 40 years, which means our kids, or your kids, because you are younger than me, but basically, and actually mine too, because they're in their 20s and early, and the eldest is in the early 30s, but for the last 40 years, the messaging has been one of, if you have an emotion like anxiety or depression, there's something wrong with you as an individual. There's something wrong with your brain. And it's all about eliminating the symptom versus, hey, this is a normal part of being human. Bad things happen, adverse circumstances happen, and we respond. It's okay to be a mess. How do we manage the mess? So we want to shift people away from that biomedical model and into a model where we can manage how our mind works. And that's what you're contributing to, because when you do it, your child sees you do it, your husband sees you do it, your other kids do, your whole family suddenly is doing it. Her kids at school notice, the teachers notice. It becomes this way of from a grassroots helping to change the face and how mental health looks currently in this country, and helping prevent suicides. And these kids as young as 4 are committing suicide. I mean, are dying by suicide. And we have to give children a way of, what do I do with all these things that are happening to me and that I feel like this inside of me? And that's why I get so excited about people like yourselves that are really trying to do this with your children. So thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you for being an amazing resource and for your time, because I feel like exactly what you said, it's like the cultural message is there's something wrong with you if this is the way your brain processes and if this is the way you feel. And there's a lot of stigma against it. And so to be part of a generation that's realizing and waking up to this is not okay anymore, and to have such amazing resources to change my perspective on myself, and have kindness and compassion toward my own mental health struggles, and have tools to overcome them, and then be able to feel like confident enough that I can help my kids and give them a toolkit to just not just a preventative or like emergency, but like this is a way of life. And so I'm just really thankful for that.
Oh, well, you said that so beautifully. You said things that made me very, very happy. A way of life. Our mind is always working. If you think about it, your mind is always working. You don't use your mind, then you don't use your mind. Your mind is going 24/7, and it's changing you. During the day we respond, at night we sort how we've been responding. So to make this a lifestyle, like you clean your teeth, you breathe, you manage your mind, and your neurocycles, your system of doing that. So that's very, very important, and we need to convey that to our kids. Hey, listen, this is life, and things are going to happen, and here's a tool. Here's the tools to tell your story and to manage your story. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Hannah, and I'm excited to talk to you again in the future. And I hope you enjoy the book and all the things, and I hope you enjoy this working through the system with your child and with your other children, and look forward to hearing your feedback.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.